Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Quad University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 12 of the subject of software engineering, in which we will discuss the project scheduling and the project costing activities of the software project management. In the previous lecture we already discussed first two activities of the software project management, which includes the proposal writing and the project planning. So these activities are very much in details. So that's why we are giving more lectures to these activities. This is the discussion agenda. The discussion agenda contains the project scheduling. Project scheduling means the time framework required to complete the projects. Then we have project scheduling process. Then we have the bar charts and activity networks diagrams. And then we have the task duration and dependencies. Then we have activity networks, activity timelines, staff allocation, project costing, and types of project costs. First of all, we have the project scheduling, which is the third activity of software project management. Project scheduling is one of the most difficult job for the project manager. That means exact scheduling is in fact sometimes impossible because software products are often intangible and not physical. That's why good project scheduling or complete project scheduling cannot be performed. So manager estimates the time and resources required to complete the activities and organize them into a coherent sequence. So here the manager requires two things for the project scheduling. One is the times required to complete the projects. The time is basically splits into multiple unit times, and each units are in fact unit times is defined for the particular unit or the components to be developed. And then we also have the resources required to complete the project. So the resources are in fact fundamental things which is in fact assigned to the time. For example, the one programmer requires 1 week to complete this activity. So that means 1 week is the time or schedule for a programmer, and a programmer is the resources to complete this particular task. Unless the project being scheduled is similar to a previous projects, previous estimates are an uncertain basis for the new project schedules. So we can use the previous schedule as well. For example, if we have completed the previous project which has the similar functionalities or similar resources as compared to the current projects, so that's why we cannot use the estimates in the current project as well. But mostly the projects are different from each other, so then why we cannot use the particular estimates for the same projects. Schedule estimation is further complicated by the fact that different projects may use different design methods and implementation language. That means the projects are often different from each other with respect to different designs, different requirements, and different methods of implementation or the programming. So that's why we cannot use the previous schedules for the current projects. This is the project scheduling process. First of all, we will identify the activities. Here, different activities are identified. For example, the waterfall model provides a best example of the activities in which there are 5 different activities: requirement analysis, designs, implementation and unit testing, integration and system testing, and the operation and maintenance. So all these 5 activities are identified here. So it depends on the projects. The project contains many sort of the activities. So all the activities are listed down here, which define the software requirements. This defines the requirements of the projects. In fact, all the activities are the functionalities, and every functionality defines the requirements of the project. So this defines SRS, Software Requirement Specification Document. Then we identify activity dependencies. One activity may depend on another. All activities cannot be independent from each other. So always there is dependencies among their activities. For example, when the design is complete, then we will complete the implementation or we will perform the programming. If the design is incomplete, we cannot perform the programming. Similarly, if the requirements are not available, then how we can do the programming or the designing. So similarly, if the implementation is complete, then we can do the testing. So one activity depends on another. The third step is estimate resources for activities. Here we will define different sort of the resources for completion of the activities. The resources include the uh, hardware resources, the software resources such as the compilers, interpreters, operating systems. Similarly, the people resources is very much important. The people resource includes, for example, the staff required to complete the activity. That includes, for example, the programmer, the testers, the quality assurance personnel, etc. So all these peoples who are responsible to complete activities are the resources for the activities. Then we will allocate people to activities. By identifying or estimating resources for activities, then we will define different people who will be responsible for completing these activities. Then we will create the project charts. The project charts are different diagrammatical representation of the information which represent the scheduling purpose. Here we will define the activity charts and the bar charts here. The activity charts and the bar charts are well explained in the next slides. So after completing this, this is the iterative process. If this is incomplete or there is certain problems in these activities, then we will perform the iteration again. This is the loop here. So the loop will be performed again here. Now bar charts and activity network diagram. Bar charts and activity network diagram are two different types of scheduling techniques. These are in fact procedures used to make different sort of the schedules. The bar charts include graphical notation that includes to illustrate the project schedule. It shows project breakdown structure into multiple tasks. The task should not be too small. Two small tasks can be merged with each other to make one big task. They should take about a week or two. So you cannot define your task in hours. While in a freelancing, if we have a small task, we can define the hours as well. But for the large projects which are developed into different development organization, for example, let's Soul Corporation, etc., then we will use weeks or 2 weeks for the scheduling. Activity charts. Activity charts, as its name indicates, it contains different charts, and the chart shows task dependency and critical paths of the activities. And the bar chart shows the bars used to complete the activities for the particular schedules. It shows the calendar times. Now here we are doing different examples here. First of all, we will identify different activities which are called the tasks. The tasks are usually denoted through the T1, T2, T3, T4 up to so many tasks that is in the projects. You can also identify the names here of the task. For example, requirements analysis, then we have the interview, then we have the observation, then we have the sampling, then we have the questionnaires, then we have validate the requirements, then we will document that requirements, then we will review the requirements. So there may be many tasks in one major task. So this is the task duration and dependency tables. Then we have the durations. Duration may be in the days, in the weeks, in the months. But it is better to define the duration in terms of the days. If you want a tight duration and a good duration, then you should define the duration in the days. The days should be include all the working days. For example, task 1 requires 8 days to complete, task 2 requires 15 days to complete. Similarly, task 3 requires also 15 days to complete. Then we have the dependencies. Dependencies shows that one task is depending on another. So if there is the dependency, the dependent task cannot be completed or cannot be started without the completing the another task. So if this is empty, that shows task 1, task 2 are independent tasks. That means task 1 and task 2 can be start at any time. Now you can see that task 3 requires 15 days to complete, and it depends on task 1. This is the dependency column. Task T3 depends on task 1. That means T3 cannot be completed or it cannot be started when T1 is completed. So when T1 is complete, then we can start the T3 task. So here in the brackets, it defines the milestones. So when the T3 is complete, we in fact obtain some major activities that is called the milestones. So M1 is the combination of T1 and T3. Then we have task T4, which is independent task and requires 10 days. T5, which is which requires 10 days, and it depends on T4, T2 and T4. And when T5, T2 and T4 is completed, then we obtain the milestones 2. Then we have task 6. Task 6 depends on task 6 required 5 days, and also it depends on T1 and T2. And when these three tasks is completed, when we obtain milestones 3. Similarly, all other milestones are obtained like the same way. Now, we can convert the previous table into the activity network diagram. This is the activity network diagram. It is exactly like a graph where all nodes are milestones and activities. Here you can see that the activities are defined using task 1, task 2, similarly task 3 and so on, and task 12, which is the final task. And milestones are defined with this round shaped rectangles are the ovals M1, M2 and 3. And on the milestone we define the dates, the date when this milestone has been achieved. And on task we in fact have, or we define the labels of the days. This is the working days required to complete task 1. Now we just in fact see this diagram with the previous tables. This is the previous tables. Here task 1 and task 2 requires 8 and 15 days simultaneously. So here task 1 is this one. Task 1 and task 2 requires 8 and 15 days. Task 1 required 8 days and task 2 required 15 days. This is the starting node. Starting node means starting milestones. This is just the beginning. And here we define the date here 4703. That means 47-2003 is the starting date of the project. First task required 8 days. Second task required 15 days. So we will just define the number of days over the task. Then we have task 3. Task 3 required 15 days and it depends on task 1. So task 3 required 15 days and it depends on task 1. So task 3 is here. We will just connect task 1 3 with the task 1, but milestones M1 will be added here. So 15 days required. So we will just specify 15 days. So after completing task 1, we will achieve milestone 1. So here you can see that 4 plus 8 is equal to 12, and there may be two holidays as well. That's why 14/7/2003 will be M1. So M1 will be completed on 14/7/2003 because two holidays and 8 working days. So that's why it is 4 plus 8 12 plus 2 is 14. So this is there we will get M1, and task 2 will be started after M1. So 15 days will be labeled on the task 3. Okay. Next is task 4. Task 4 requires 10 days and it is independent task. There is no dependencies for task 4. So that's why we can start task 4 immediately after the starting date of the project. This is 4/7/2003 date, and task 4 required 10 days. So we will just define here task 4 over, and the days are mentioned over the task 4. Okay. Next is task 5. Task 5 required 10 days and it depends on T1 and T4. But when T1 and T4 are completed, we get milestones M2. So we get milestones M2 when the T1, T2 and T4 are completed. T4, 2 and T4 are completed, we get milestones M2. So it depends on, there is dependencies that T5 depends on T2 and T4. But you can see here if the starting date is 4/7/2003, and one task requires 15 days, another task requires 10 days. So you will consider the maximum time of the task. This one is maximum, then the 10, 15. So if you add 15 with the 4, this will be 19. But there are certain holidays, 20, so that's why the task may be completed. So these two tasks combined will be completed on 25/7/2003. Because if you see here, that maybe there are 2 or 3 holidays, and also there are some another, for example, we give some extra times that maybe due to certain illness or another issues, if the employee is not uh, able to come for development. So that's why we have to specify some 2 3 extra days for M2, and task T5 required 10 days to be completed. Okay, next is task 6. A 6 requires 5 days, and it is depending on T1 and T2. So that is the task 6. Task 6 requires 5 days, but it depends on T1 and T2. So the maximum is 15 days for T1 and T2 for this milestones. So that's why it also requires, in fact, is the same, that 15, 25 and 25, because M3 is completed, or this milestone is achieved when T1 and T2 are completed, and M2 is completed when T4 and T5 are completed. So T2 is common for M2 and 3. So M2 and M3 both are completed on the same days, 25/7/2003, 25, because T2 is common among these two. So after M3, T6 can be started. So T6 require 5 days. Okay. Then we have T7, T8. T7 requires 20 days, and it depends on T1. So we will specify T7 immediately after T1. So it depends on T1, T7. So T7 is here. So T7 is also connected with M1 like T3. So because T3 is also depending on T1, T7 is also depending on T1. So that's why this is connected commonly with this milestones. And this requires, T7 required 20 days. 20 days. So that's why this is a very long activities. So M7 is completed in 11/8/2003. If you add 20 with the 14, so you will get 11 almost, and it also includes some holidays as well. So it should be properly noted that all holidays should be counted here. Okay. Similarly, T8, T9, and similar T10 and T12 and T for all. T12 is in fact depending on T1, T11, and it requires 10 days. So here is the T12. T12 depends on T11, and it requires 10 days to complete. So this is the way the network activity diagram works, and this is the finishing date. Finishing date, the last date in which the project will be completed. This is the 19/9/2003. So at this particular date, the project may be completed. This is just the estimation of the schedule. This is not final schedule. And with respect to the time, maybe that this activity may be disturbed and this schedule should be revised again. This is the activity timeline. This is also another methodologies like the previous activity network diagram, but there you can see some graphs, like bar charts here. These bar charts also specify the schedule of the project. So 4/7 or 2003 is the starting date of the project. This is the start. That's why we specify here the start. Start. Then we have T1, T1. Then we have T2 and T4. These are independent tasks. So that's why they are starting here parallel. So they are parallel starts here. So there we will specify different slots and the date over different slots, number of days required to complete the particular task, and then these are started. So you can see that T4 is depending on the particular task. So that's why there is the dependency, because they are independent, but you can see that This this is the dependency work of on the another activity. You can see T7 starts after T1 because T7 is depending on T1. Similarly, T3 is also depending on T1. Similarly, all these activities are carried out in the same fashion. Okay, this is M3, M2, and T6, T5. So all these tasks are performed here. So let us check this activity timeline with our table. This is the table. T1, T2 are independent activity, but T4 is also independent. So that's why T1, T2, and T4 can be started in parallel. But T3 depend on T1 and it requires 15 days to complete. So here we will see T3 depends on T1. This T3. T3 depends on T1. That's why T3 starts immediately after T1. So this is the T1, that is it starts immediately after T1. This is T3. Okay. Next, T4 is independent activity. T5 depends on T2 and T4, and milestone 2 is completed when T2 and T4 are completed. So we will see T5. T5 is in fact an activity. This is the T5. That depends on another activities. Let us see. T5 depends on T2 and T4. T2 and T4. So this is T5. T5 depends on T2 and T4. So this is T4. So T4 is in fact there you can see this is the T4 activity and this completes here, and this is T2 activity, it completes here. So then we will start T5 here. T5 is in fact here. There is the T5. So this blue line shows the dependency. This line shows the particular dependencies. So the you can see from here the dependency is starting for another task. So that's why some portion of this T5 is blue, right? And so on. This is in fact T5 and this is the finishing. So finishing date of this project is 1909. 1909 is the finish while start was 47. 47 is the start and 1909 is the finishing date of the project. This is the staff allocation chart. Basically, we allocate people to this particular staff. For example, Fred, Jane, Annie, and Jim and Mary are five different people, and Fred is responsible for T4, Jim is responsible for T1, Annie is responsible for T2, and similarly, Jim is responsible for T7, and Mary is responsible for T5. This is the timeline here. You can see that project starts from 47 and completes on 1909. So task 12 is the last task. Fred is also responsible for task 12, task 11, task 8 and task 4. So this is another way to represent the activities. You can see it doesn't show any dependency, but it shows that T3 cannot be started before T9. In fact, T9 cannot be started before T3. When T3 completes, then T9 should be started. Okay, next important activities for the project manager is the project costing. Costing here means that the budgeting. So cost estimate is the real activities that is concerned with estimating the resources required to complete the project plan. So costing is not only the budgeting, it also includes the resources required to complete the project. And basically it should be included in the project plan. Okay, so the cost of development are primary. There are many sort of the cost. Some are called primary cost, some are called secondary cost. So for example, the development cost is are called the primary cost. Primary are those costs which are the major cost of the effort, that is the effort involved in the development of the project. So the effort computation is used in both the cost and the schedule. So when we want to compute the cost and schedule of the project, we use the efforts. However, you may have to do some cost estimation before detailed schedules are drawn up. So it is the better way that after detailed schedule, before the detailed scheduling, you must have to do all sort of the project costing. And because in the scheduling activities, we required resources to complete the activities. So that's why resources are the part of the costing. So that's why it should be drawn prior to the to the scheduling. These initial estimates may be used to establish a budget for the project or to set the price for the software for the customers. Basically, the costing means that to establish the budget for the project, that how much fundings we can complete this particular project. So this is very much important. If we have identified less funding, so that will be result in the failure of the project. We should also identify the exact budgeting. If we identify more budgets, then it will result in the corruption in organizations. So that's why over budgeting is also not required. We should identify exact budgeting for the project. Now, project costings. There are different types of project costs. There are two major costs: primary cost and secondary cost. Project cost are those costs which are the major cost, and primary cost. So primary cost includes the hardware and software cost, including their maintenance. Hardware and software are very much expensive, as you know nowadays. For example, servers can be very much costly. They may be of the billion of rupees and very much expensive to buy. Similarly, software are also very much costly. If you want to buy the license software, you have to pay in thousands of dollars for one software. These are very much costly. Similarly, travel and training cost. This is also very much costly. If you want to travel to the foreign countries for the training purpose, then you have to pay, and this is very much costly. Similarly, it contains a hotel and food cost as well while you are traveling to the foreign for the training purpose. Also, if you want to arrange the trainings within your organization, you have to invite the guest speakers so that they may train your employee. So that's why there is also very much costly. Number third is the efforts cost. Efforts costs include the salary cost of the organization. It includes the cost of paying software engineers, because efforts is the we in fact pay on the monthly or on the daily basis. So that's why this is very major cost, and we in the big organization there are hundreds and thousands of employees. So that's why they have to pay a lot to their employees in terms of salaries. Number third is the secondary cost. Secondaries are not major costs; these are minor costs, but these are also cost. Some secondary cost or all the secondary cost can make very much big cost. This includes cost of providing heating, lighting, and office space. Basically, many secondary costs are one-time cost, which includes providing heating and lighting office space for the development organization. It, the cost of support staff such as accountant, administration, system manager, cleaners, and technicians. In the software organization, we record less supporting staff because there are less amount of paperwork involved. So that's why this is the secondary cost. It includes accounting. Accounting means that we have to do accounting for our projects, that whether the project is in fact benefiting us or not. They provide any sort of the business benefits. Similar administrators, for example, if you have the recruiters, and then we also have certain another peoples which includes the administrators. For example, we have liaison officers. Similarly, system managers. System manager are those people who manages the hardware systems. Similarly, the cleaners and technicians. These are also includes people included in our projects. Number three, cost of networking and communication cost. This is one-time cost. The networking and communication includes server cost, similarly switches, hubs, and the cabling, etc. Number four, cost of central facilities such as library or recreational costs. We also include libraries in the software organizations. For example, library is required for reading purpose, which includes different sort of books on the technical. aspects of the projects. For example, the programming books, similarly the database management books, similarly networking books. So we can concern these books to take help from them, and we can do the proper development. And also we have recreational facilities such as the tea parties and similarly breakfast, etc. So recreational facilities should also be included here. And cost of the social security. Social security is the employee benefits. For example, if due to certain incident, if the employee is unable to do the development and we want to retire the employee, then we will provide the social security to the employee. And this is in fact his or her own salary. We want that is deposited in different banks, and when they retire, they will get that particular salary. So also employee benefits, health insurance, etc., such as pensions and health insurance. These are the types of project cost. Okay, dear student, this is the end of the lecture. If you have any question, you can email me. My email is in the footer section of the slides, m.kadeem@kust.edu.pk. I will answer to you as soon as I get the email. And this is the reference of the books from where you can do your reading. So if you have some confusion, you can also email to me. Thank you very much.